The interesting opportunity came up for us to take a stab at making G.I. Joe 12-inch figures through our association with Hasbro and the 12-inch Star Wars figures. So it was always something that was kind of in the back of our minds as, hey, I wonder if we could ever get a chance at this. Because the Star Wars thing went so well, we talked to the Hasbro teams and kind of presented our view and the strategy we would like to take about doing the 12-inch G.I. Joe, and they really warmed up to it and gave us a shot.
One of the major factors of Sideshow doing 12-inch G.I. Joe figures, which is historical in itself, the first time Hasbro has taken one of their biggest babies like G.I. Joe and allowed another company to do it in the format that made G.I. Joe popular, which was the 12-inch figure format. It's pretty huge.
We've been doing military and, well, 12-inch in general for a long time, but the military especially goes right to the heart of most of our design group. They've been doing Civil War, World War I, even Western figures for forever, and there's a lot of Joe fans in the mix.
As fans, it was one of those things where we've always kind of wanted to do it. We've always been fans of like the Hasbro stuff. A lot of us are, 3 3/4 collectors.
I think Hasbro allowed us to be a licensee really because we had proven our chops with the 12-inch Star Wars program. We were able to take something that their legacy is so deeply rooted in and kind of add the Sideshow twist to it that I think that they appreciate, our fans appreciate. And also there's a lot of Sideshow fans at Hasbro, as well as there's a lot of Hasbro fans here at Sideshow, so I think it's a really a great team up.
The characters that are more my favorites in the Real American Hero layout are the ones that kind of represent more the real-world Special Forces military archetypes, guys like Flint or Beachhead, ones that really sort of look a little bit more like they could be real.
Duke and Rock and Roll, the real military, guys that are down there on the front line, not sneaking around, just up in the front, shooting it up, going toe-to-toe with Cobra, duking it out.
I was always a fan of Zartan. The color change, the camouflage, the espionage. And he was out in my backyard in a swamp skier every weekend, zipping around and going from green to fleshy and being a creep.
So when we took a look at all of the breadth of what has been developed for the G.I. Joe Real American Hero property, it became really clear right away that there had been a really diverse layout of interpretations of these characters. Some of it had been really comic book style, some of it was really realistic looking, and some of it was really wildly stylized.
The original G.I. Joe Real American Hero stuff was iconic in itself enough to make people who worked on it afterwards with the comic book and with the other things realize that you can't just take a guy and dress him up in green and call him G.I. Joe anymore if you're going to do the Real American Hero stuff. There's a distinctive color palette that's used throughout the G.I. Joe Real American Hero cartoon series, which also translated further into the comic books and everything.
The key with the Joe characters is really finding it all across all the different formats, be it an action figure, comic, cartoon, is what is the key element that makes that character who he is. Cobra Commander has his hood, Snake Eyes has his visor or goggles, depending which version you do. It's finding those key elements and that really says that character, and then translating the elements that can be into a real-world item. So, for example, Snake Eyes has a very distinct sword. It's a very fantasy-looking sword. We picked that element to do. But also we wanted to do more of a tactical, more practical sword, something that if there was such thing as a Commando Ninja nowadays, this is something he would probably carry as well. So you get both elements. You get the real and then you get the fantasy element.
We take our own approach to it where we take the comic book or cartoon design and then add or enhance it with a little bit of that real-world tactical gear, more realistic guns or equipment, loadouts that perhaps represent something more in the real world, but are still true to the original character and costume designs. Because I think the most iconic part of the G.I. Joe series is that the characters are so recognizable. You can see a silhouette of the character, you can see a glimpse of the character, you can see a piece of a character in a frame of a comic book, and you know who that character is.
We'd like to take these characters and we'd like to put a little bit of a harder realism edge onto them. There's a lot of the developers and a lot of the creative personnel at Sideshow are interested in historical or modern military gear and weaponry, and we wanted to kind of bring some of that sensibility to the Real American Hero pieces that we did, so that, if nothing else, it would actually create a little bit of a sidestep from what is the main legacy agenda of Hasbro. We really didn't want to create something that was competitive. We wanted to create something that would sort of enhance the property.
At that size and that scale, the expectation's a little higher for how he's going to interact with his accessories, how the clothing is being thought out to be practical.
Initially, when we look at a design, we'll take it in the contemporary, what would this character have in its military loadout, etc. And then we'll balance that with what does this character have that are its real key lightning rod recognizable accessories or features or costume silhouette, color pattern. And so we'll start to break those things down and we'll make trades across or things that we think people will like and appreciate.
Like Cobra Commander's signature pistol. We're going to do our best to make that look just like an actual handgun that you would see in the modern age. So with the crisp and clean detail on it.
In the case of Cobra, we've done a lot of work in, sort of taking a look at, the really infinite layout of Cobra trooper variations that Hasbro has developed, and we've tried to sort of find the commonality in there, the sort of, military structure that's there. And we found various elements that really were the signatures, and then we brought in some military tailoring sensibilities to kind of create a Cobra uniform. So we designed, a slightly different BDU cut for the Cobra Troopers uniforms.
The Cobra Troopers have a certain kind of gear on, the straps and the belt, and it's very distinct. So we kind of looked at what was going on, which country or which organizations or, which kind of troops had that sort of gear. The ones that looked the most similar, so that way we can copy our real world design, that way it makes it more tangible.
With the Joe team, you would see more of the US weapons platforms like the M16 and the M4.
The Cobra Trooper is a design that, historically looks like, several of the typical vilified armies of the world, especially for the time when the comic books came up. So, we armed them the way that they were armed in the 3 3/4 figures with Eastern Bloc, weaponry, AK-47s, etc. And the helmet design and the uniforms design, sort of echoes that typical like bad guy meets terrorist meets fascist sort of, uniform, because Cobra is supposed to represent this, this overwhelmingly evil, destructive, worldwide terrorist sect.
I think our team's going to lean more towards the realistic military weaponry, stuff that has a little bit more today and less tomorrow sort of style to it. But I can't see them weaving out all of the fantasy.
The part of the process that we really enjoy the most, and certainly I enjoy the most, is really the sort of design phase where we're kind of exploring each character. If for nothing else, this gives us a reason to drag out our gear, play with our guns, and sort of mix and match various gear loadouts to try and start to determine what we're going to do. And this also we're out buying all types of things and referencing all types of materials.
We got a DVD of the movie G.I. Joe the movie, and we started doing research on the different episodes and just what the characters looked like back then. And then we started picking up the comic books, which of course the comic books are kind of like a midpoint between what we're trying to do and what the cartoon series did, because they were brought up to date to a certain level where they had realistic weapons and they had realistic costumes. And we're going to take it even further than that.
When we're building and designing a figure, you always want to see that the design that you had envisioned in your head and on paper and through sketches meets the expectations of the team. That when you sit down and you look at the prototype and you look at what comes back after it's been manufactured, all the hard work that gets represented is there and it sings the praises of the character. You have, at the end of it, a character that instantaneously is recognizable as that Joe character. And the choices and nuances that you put into the gear and the pouches and the uniform and the fabric and the material and the paint sort of, evoke exactly what you were looking for from the start.
It's the first time that Hasbro's allowed another company to do 12-inch G.I. Joe. And Sideshow has an opportunity here to take it to a sort of different place and bring a little bit of our own imagination to it. But I'm really excited because I see the characters that I know and love and instantly recognize when I look at these figures. And I get to bring them home and add them to my 12-inch displays and display them with my 3 3/4 figures. The 25th anniversary has taken over my shelves at home, and I can't wait to add the 12-inch Sideshow G.I. Joe figures to that display.
Hasbro's created an incredible legacy with the G.I. Joe property, and Sideshow is proud to be a participant in creating that ongoing story with them.
They've been around for years. The figures, people who didn't even buy them could look at them like, oh, that's one of those G.I. Joe figures. So if we had some sort of part in that, however small, that would just, I think, be a compliment into itself.
We're all fans and we just want to really make something cool.